My father has sent me to marry. My mother pointed at my two personal maids, Lulua and Xian, and said, choose a replacement and have her go in your place. As soon as I raised my finger, a few words floated in the air. The supporting actress is such a troublemaker. She doesn't want to marry herself, but she drags the maids into this. She's completely devoid of conscience. It doesn't matter. Lulua has our crown prince's protection. As soon as she gets on the northern Rome carriage, the crown prince will immediately send someone to kidnap her. I frowned and slowly moved my finger towards Xian. The subtitles began to scroll through the air again. Choosing Xian is even worse. I remember in the original novel, the supporting actress simply suggested to the empress that Xian be chosen, and the young general stormed the princess's mansion. The hero is truly not afraid of the princess at all. After all, he's the future consort. Who wants to be that consort? If the princess hadn't been pestering the hero, he would have taken her on a journey across the world long ago. I finished reading with a pale face, then watched the subtitles continue to scroll. There's nothing wrong with a marriage alliance. Although the Northern Rome king is a villain, he's long been secretly in love with the princess. If she goes, she'll be treated like a queen. Unfortunately, the Zhou dynasty broke the agreement first and arranged for a replacement marriage. The Northern Rome king is furious, and soon their iron hooves will be marching through the Zhou dynasty's borders. Seeing this, I silently lowered my finger. I sighed to my mother, forget it. I'll marry. 1. With these words, Jingren Palace instantly fell silent. Everyone's expressions varied. I sat in the upper seat, watching closely. Lulua and Xian's eyes both flashed with joy. As expected, they were reluctant to go. Only my mother, beside me, became furious and anxious upon hearing my words. Zhaoning, what kind of place is Beirong? It's a bitterly cold land, barren beyond any vegetation. Have you ever imagined the suffering you'd endure if you went there? I've been well read since childhood and avidly read local chronicles, so I knew just how barren Beirong was. When I first learned that my father wanted me to go there for a marriage alliance, my heart felt like 1,000 pounds weighing heavily. My mother did everything she could to help me. I had a glimmer of hope. But now, seeing those strange subtitles in the sky, I knew that if I found someone to marry me, it would bring catastrophic disaster to the Zhou dynasty. I couldn't bear to take the risk. I was just thinking about how to convince my mother when she said, "You are my only daughter. I can't let you fall into this trap. Since you can't bear to part with them, then I'll choose for you." She casually pointed at Lulua. Upon seeing this, Lulua's body sank and she cried, "Please, Empress, have mercy." The Empress is truly vicious. She can't bear to part with her own daughter, but wants to send someone else's daughter. As expected of the heroine's biological mother, if the top beam is crooked, the bottom beam will be crooked. Don't worry, baby. Our crown prince has 3 seconds to reach the battlefield. Am I the only one who noticed that the supporting actress changed her mind and wants to go in person? The person above, the princess, must have been talking nonsense. This person is the ultimate hypocrite. I frowned as I read the subtitles in the air. After reading the last word, I saw the gates of Jingren Palace being violently pushed open from the outside. A man in a crown robe stood in the doorway, backlit. I suddenly glanced at the subtitles again. The crown prince, he's really here. 2. The moment the crown prince appeared, I could clearly feel Luolua's kneeling posture straighten a little. As if finding a supporter, the tears in her eyes vanished. I observed calmly. I saw my mother raise her eyebrows and wave to the crown prince. "Third brother, you've arrived just in time. Come and persuade your sister. I don't know what she's thinking about this marriage. She actually wants to." Before my mother could finish her words, she was abruptly interrupted by the crown prince. "Mother, I knew Zhaoning wouldn't agree to the marriage so readily. You're actually thinking of having someone else marry in her place." The crown prince looked at me. With a look of frustration, he said, "I've always known you to be timid, but for something as serious as a marriage, you dare to take someone else's place. Luo and Ziyan grew up with you. How could you be so cruel as to let them go? You really disappoint me." The crown prince spoke one sentence after another. His tone grew stronger each time. He stared at me, as if I were some unforgivable sinner. The way he stared at me was completely different from usual. In my memory, he had always been a gentle brother. This was the first time he'd lost his temper with me. My nose felt a little sore. So in the eyes of the crown prince, I was this kind of person. The subtitles continued to scroll. Oh, this is what it means to risk one's life for a beautiful woman. Seeing the princess look so aggrieved, I thought she was wronged. She didn't want to go in the first place, otherwise why didn't she refuse when the queen asked her to come? The crown prince has been putting up with the princess for a long time. She's such a foolish woman. If it weren't for the fact that she's the queen's biological daughter, he wouldn't bother with her. My hand tightened around the handkerchief. My eyes were wet with tears, blurry. My memory went back to when I was 6 years old. Clearly then. Third brother wasn't like this. When I was 6, I got smallpox. The entire princess's residence was under guard. Not even my mother could enter, save for the imperial physician. She could only go to Mingda Temple, tears in her eyes, to pray for my blessing. I lay in bed, feverish and delirious. The servants who had previously served me had also fallen ill with smallpox. My voice hoarse, I called out several times, but no one responded. But in my daze, I felt a warm hand. I felt a cup of water approach my lips. I drank the water hungrily and fell into a deep sleep again. Those few days were arguably the most difficult of my life. Not a single ray of sunlight penetrated the entire palace. I could only lie in bed, my tears soaking the pillow, crying out for my father and mother. At night, I was tired of crying. Half asleep, I seemed to hear someone singing a nursery rhyme beside me, the same one my mother had used to lull me to sleep. Later, my fever subsided and I became more conscious. The first thing I saw when I woke up was my third brother, sprawled over my bed. At that time, he wasn't even the crown prince. He was simply the unloved prince father had fathered by a palace maid after a drunken encounter. He was skinny, sallow, and gaunt, with only a pair of eyes that shone brightly. The servants in the cold palace bullied him. When I woke up, my third brother was holding a teacup, staring at me. I could see the tension in his eyes. He said a little awkwardly, I just. I smiled at him, "Third brother, I'm thirsty." I recognized him. Back when I was playing around, I crawled through the dog hole in the cold palace. I saw a nanny beating a little brother. I was about to speak up to stop him, but Lulua pulled me aside and whispered, "Princess, let's not get involved in this matter with the third prince. Otherwise, when we get back, the empress will know we've been to the cold palace." I hesitated. But then Lulua bit her lip and said, "You're a princess, you can be willful, but if the empress knows I brought you to the cold palace, I'll be punished." I didn't want to see Lulua punished. But I didn't want to see third brother go hungry. So I secretly put the last bag of osmanthus cake I had in my pocket in a corner. Afterwards, I fell ill. This was our first official meeting. But then I heard third brother say, "You're fourth sister, right?" It turned out he recognized me. Third brother, holding a teacup, stepped closer to me and offered the water. His hand, holding the cup, was dark and rough, with a hint of black dirt visible between his nails. "You're sick. Drink more water." But his voice was like a mountain spring, clear and gentle. Just like the voice that sang a nursery rhyme by my bed that night. That June, my smallpox was finally cured, and I gradually recovered. My mother had no children, so my third brother was fostered under her name from that day forward. From then on, he went from being a bastard to a legitimate son, and no one in the palace could bully him anymore. My third brother and I grew up together. He gave in to me in everything, bringing me all the goodies he found outside the palace. This was the first time he had scolded me so harshly. The subtitles said, "My third brother approached me because of my status. Should I believe it?" 4. The crown prince saw me lost in thought and hesitated to respond. He grew increasingly angry. "What's with your attitude? I'm talking to you about serious matters and you're still daydreaming. Look at you. Even Green Rose beside you is more intelligent than you." My mind finally snapped out of my memories. The subtitles were scrolling again. The crown prince loves smart people. Only Green Rose can keep up with him. If Luolua had a princess's background, she would have been a world-renowned talent. Unlike the princess, she's simply the world's biggest idiot. The person above, although I don't like the princess either, she could recite poems at the age of 3 and write fu at the age of 5. She's not an idiot, is she? She's not an idiot, is she? The one who watched over her bedside, feeding her water and soothing her to sleep wasn't the third prince at all. If someone can admit their mistake, how can they be stupid? Seeing this, my gaze froze slightly. I suddenly stood up from my chair. My mother, beside me, was startled. She thought I was provoked by my third brother's words. She immediately defended me. "Third brother, this was my idea. Don't take your anger out on Jiaoning." The crown prince's expression grew increasingly serious, clearly unconvinced. "Mother, from childhood to adulthood, you've always protected Jiaoning, no matter what trouble she got into. But this time, it's a marriage alliance, a matter of state. If you continue to defend her like this, it will only harm her sooner or later." Hearing this, even my most stubborn temper couldn't help but snap. "Third brother, you may be the crown prince, but mother is the mother of a nation. How can you behave so disrespectfully?" The crown prince was choked by my words. He angrily said, "Jiaoning, look at you, you're such a savage now. Even if you married into the northern Rome, no one would necessarily want you." As soon as he finished speaking, someone splashed tea in his face. Mother slammed the teacup down and said bitterly, "Chuchinyu, don't forget how you earned your position as crown prince." The crown prince's face turned from pale to blue, as if someone had touched a sore spot. He looked at me with a dark and complex look. I knew he had remembered. Back then, after my eldest brother's unexpected death, my mother was gloomy and unhappy. It was only after my birth that the Jingren Palace was filled with joy and laughter again. Later, I fell ill, and because my third brother had been nursing me, my mother begged my father to place him in her care. This was an honor none of the other princes possessed. 3 years ago, my father gathered us together to assess the academic performance of several princes and princesses. We were asked to write exam papers based on the current examination questions. After collecting the papers, my father left me alone. My father first pulled out my paper, and after examining it, 2 days passed after this incident. My third brother left court and headed straight for the princess's residence, full of energy. That's when I learned. In front of the entire court, my father praised my third brother's excellent essay and planned to make him crown prince. At that moment, I felt a mixture of joy and relief. But also guilt. Because I had read everyone's essays. My third brother's wasn't the best. The crown prince seemed to recall this incident too. He felt a little guilty, his momentum no longer as strong as before. He lifted his coat, knelt on one knee, and said guiltily, "Mother, this time it was your fault. I was simply too impatient." He looked at me, then at Luolua, who was kneeling beside him. As if making a decision, he grasped Luolua's hand. "I, your son, have secretly pledged my life to Luolua. I beg your majesty to grant us this marriage." 6. My mother was shocked and furious. I paid no attention to what they said afterward. Because what my third brother had said had already proven the subtitles were true. He and Lualua were indeed having an affair. So for all these years, he had been traveling between the Crown Prince's residence and the Princess's residence almost daily. Was it truly out of love for me, his younger sister? Or was it simply because the person he loved was in the Princess's residence? I looked at Lualua. But her eyes were now filled with my third brother, her love evident in her words. For so many days, they had exchanged glances right under my nose, and I had been completely oblivious. Was the man who had nursed me back then actually my third brother? Is he really that foolish? Queen Mother didn't immediately agree to the marriage, but seeing that third brother was determined to protect Lualua, she eventually gave in. Okay, if Lualua isn't an option, then Ziyan, you will marry Zhaoning. Queen Mother was resolute. Ziyan didn't dare say anything, but her eyes were red. I frowned. Queen Mother, the marriage is my own business. Queen Mother, clutching her head, said, "Oh, you two, stop irritating me." 7. Mammy escorted both the Crown Prince and me out of the palace. The Crown Prince was in a good mood. He said he would send me back to the Princess's residence. I shook my head and refused. Seeing my estrangement from him, he tried to reach over and take my hand, but I dodged. His face darkened. "You're so angry with me over a servant." I looked at third brother. "I should be asking Your Highness the Crown Prince, how dare you disrespect me, the princess and my mother, today for a slave girl? Someday, when you ascend the throne, will you still have eyes for us?" I said this, firstly to vent my resentment and secondly to test my third brother. But my third brother's expression immediately changed. After a while, he regained his usual humble and gentle demeanor, whispering coaxingly, "Don't be angry, fourth sister. I've made the kite. Tomorrow when I'm free, I'll go fly it with you, okay?" He held out his hand, revealing the tiny scratches from the bamboo strips he'd made while making the kite for me. I suddenly remembered the spring kite flying outing I'd made with the Crown Prince a few days ago. He actually made a kite for me. Before I could even feel touched, the subtitles started rolling. Flying a kite is a childish trick only a princess would fall for. The prince's wound clearly arose from making a kite for Lualua. The princess kite was merely a scrap of leftover material that the prince had his servants make. I'll bet a penny that the princess will be soft-hearted again this time. Seeing these subtitles, I was stunned. Just now, I was indeed shaken for a moment. But now, the anger that had just been suppressed suddenly flared up again. I stepped back, keeping my distance from my third brother. I said coldly, "Your Highness, Zhaoning was ignorant before. You should fly the kite with someone else." I hurried out of the palace. I couldn't wait any longer. I had to immediately send someone to investigate the truth of that year. As soon as I left the palace, I was stunned. Today I entered the palace in my mother's carriage. The people in the princess's residence hadn't yet arranged a carriage. I was afraid I would have to wait a while longer under the scorching sun. I looked up, feeling a little dizzy. I hadn't slept well these past 2 days because of the marriage. Just as I was feeling depressed, a deep voice reached my ears. "Zhaoning, what are you doing standing here?" I turned. I looked up. My eyes suddenly widened, and my body unconsciously straightened a little. Second brother. 8. In the carriage. My second brother, Chu Jingyue, and I exchanged glances. I was even more nervous than I had been in Jingren Palace earlier. The second prince sighed, "Fourth sister, you don't have to be so nervous every time you see me. I won't eat you." I lowered my gaze, hiding the hint of guilt and remorse. Back then, it was actually my second brother who wrote the best policy essays. Over the years, although my second brother had some influence with the emperor, he wasn't particularly favored. I always felt sorry for him. Over time, it became a source of worry. Plus, he always had a reserved demeanor, and I'd been somewhat afraid of him since I was a child. The carriage was quiet, and I secretly raised my eyes. Suddenly, the subtitles scrolled across the void. She refused the crown prince's carriage, but boarded the second prince's. The princess is truly a double standard. What's wrong with the princess today? Isn't she usually the most afraid of the second prince? She'd hide away whenever she saw him. Could it be that she'd discovered that it wasn't the crown prince who tended her when she was ill, but the second prince, Chu Jingyue? My breath hitched. My face paled, and cold sweat formed on my forehead. A large hand reached out and gently wiped the sweat from my forehead. Are you hot? His voice was cool and deep, resonating with the nursery rhyme I'd heard in my dream. I vaguely remember it. A few years after I recovered from my illness, I begged my third brother to sing for me again. But he always hemmed and hawed, saying it was for children, and that singing again would tarnish his image as a prince, so he refused to sing. I grabbed my second brother's hand, wanting to verify it. Second brother, can you sing me a nursery rhyme? Chu Jingyue was stunned. But without much hesitation, he covered his mouth and coughed softly. Don't mind if second brother doesn't sing well. A melodious song lingered in the carriage, clear and pleasant. The little boy paddled a small boat, secretly picking white lotuses and returning. Unable to hide his tracks, I murmured. It was him. Back in the princess's mansion, it was second brother who, regardless of his own safety, fed me medicine and sang me to sleep. All these years. How could I have been wrong? How could I have been wrong? I gripped second brother's sleeve tightly. When I had smallpox, did second brother visit my mansion? 9. I desperately wanted to verify it. But I got the truth of that time in the passing subtitles first. Fuck. The princess actually guessed that Chu Jingyue was the one who tended to her back then. It seems he still has some brains. Back then, Chu Jingyue, worried about the princess, sneaked into the mansion, but accidentally contracted the disease, and ran a high fever for several days. Otherwise, the third prince wouldn't have taken advantage of it. Every time the second prince wanted to speak with the princess, she either avoided him, or was pulled away by the crown prince. Over time, she grew disheartened. Seeing this, I felt overwhelmed with shame. My second brother stroked my hair. His usually tense and serious face softened. Fourth sister, you finally remembered. My second brother's carriage drove all the way to the princess's residence. My mood fluctuated several times along the way. My second brother mentioned my marriage proposal. He asked what I thought. If you don't want to go, then don't go. The stability of our borderland doesn't require sacrificing a princess. Tomorrow I'll tell my father that I'll personally lead the expedition to meet the king of northern Rome. I was stunned. Now my father, who had always loved me, had ordered me to marry for the sake of the Zhou dynasty. My mother insisted on this subterfuge. Even my crown prince, who had always protected me, chose to side with the outsider. As for my fiancé, he hasn't sent a single word yet. None of them has ever asked if I'm willing. Just like when I fell ill at 6. I lay in the vast princess's mansion. All I could do was wait quietly for someone to arrange my fate. This time, I didn't want to do that again. I raised my head, my eyes determined, and said, Second brother, whether I go or not, this time I want to make my own decision. 10. The carriage arrived at the princess's mansion, and my second brother helped me down. I saw a man galloping towards me on a brown horse. He stopped just in front of the princess's mansion. He was dressed in formal attire, his black hair tied high, and his face handsome. But the look he gave me was a bit cold. My fiancé, Major General Liu, had arrived so quickly. All those subtitles had said before had been verified by the crown prince. So, I wasn't surprised that Liu Jinghong would come. I just didn't expect it. I had barely left the palace before I could even have a sip of hot tea. He was so well informed, rushing here without stopping. Was he so impatient, eager to protect the person so dear to his heart? I exhaled and bowed to my second brother. Second brother, I'll treat you to this tea another day. My second brother glanced at us, but didn't ask any further questions. Only after watching the carriage drive away did I withdraw my gaze and walk straight into the princess's residence. Some farces are better played out behind closed doors. At the door. It was a laughingstock. 11. Lu Jinghong followed me to the lobby. Seeing I remained silent, he couldn't help but question me. You are a princess, enjoying the people's wealth and the responsibility of the royal family. The emperor sent you on a marriage, and that's your responsibility. Why drag Ziyan into this? I turned and stared at him for a long moment. Finally, I asked, if I say we're married today, my father won't let me go on the marriage. Are you willing? This was my original plan. The year I came of age, my father asked me to choose a prince consort. I chose Lu Jinghong. It wasn't because of his distinguished family background, or because he was the heir of the Zhenhua mansion. It wasn't because of his outstanding appearance or exceptional martial arts. My mother said that a woman's chastity is the most precious. At 15, I only remember that Lu Jinghong was the first and only man to kiss me. I had to be responsible for him. Although my father had only verbally granted the marriage, Lu Jinghong had always considered himself a potential prince consort. He hadn't rejected this royal relative. I thought he might have some feelings for me. But this time, Lu Jinghong hesitated. He stepped back, bowed, and said, "Princess, I cannot marry you yet." 12. Seeing I remained silent, Lu Jinghong explained with a guilty conscience, "If we marry, the marriage will be ruined. His Majesty will surely blame the general's mansion, and my Lu family will become a target of public criticism." Lu Jinghong was always like this. He always prioritized the general's mansion's reputation, completely forgetting any romantic affairs. Since our engagement, he has been self-disciplined and has never crossed the line. I always thought he was simply aloof and indifferent to matters of love, and that I could wait and see. But today, for Ziyan, he was willing to leave me behind and go to that bitter cold land. I once again tested his feelings. Yes, that's why I asked my mother to make Ziyan a princess, so she could marry on my behalf. Isn't that perfect? He looked up at me angrily. Why does it have to be Ziyan? Can't Luo Luo? Lu Luo is the crown prince's favorite, so of course she can't. But Ziyan, she. You like her? I don't. Lu Jinghong immediately denied. How could I possibly like a servant? Ziyan is the heroine. She was originally the daughter of an important official, and she became a servant because her family fell into poverty. She's no worse than the princess. Is the princess a slut? The hero doesn't like her to begin with, yet she keeps trying to get close to him. The princess doesn't still think that the young man who rescued her from the water and gave her artificial respiration was Lu Jinghong, right? She mistook two saviors in a row. No wonder she's a cannon fodder supporting actress. Wait, what's artificial respiration? No, that's not right. They said the one who saved me wasn't Lu Jinghong. 13. After much thought, I decided to give it a try just to confirm my thoughts. I walked up to Lu Jinghong, standing foot to foot. I took a deep breath and stood on tiptoe. But just as my lips were about to touch his, I stopped. I frowned. Why don't you hide? Lu Jinghong's ears were red, almost bleeding. If this can calm the princess's anger, I won't hide. My finger brushed against his lips, and I could feel his body stiffen instantly. I quickly withdrew my hand. The smell wasn't right, the touch wasn't right. I said coldly, Lu Jinghong, when I was on an incognito tour with my father, I accidentally fell into the water. Were you the one who saved me? Lu Jinghong's eyes evaded him, and after a moment he said, yes. I didn't look at him. Subconsciously, I glanced at the sky and sure enough, the subtitles began to scroll again. The Lu family's promotion was thanks to him saving the princess. If he denies it, wouldn't that be deceiving the emperor? When will the princess finally understand that it was the king of Beirong who rescued her from the water? He lost his first kiss to save her and give her life, and he's been obsessed with her all these years. Don't tell me, isn't this just like the crown prince's situation? The princess has mistakenly acknowledged two benefactors. She's incredibly stupid. 14. I felt a little dizzy. I took a swig of tea, and my mind cleared up. They say it was the king of Beirong who saved me. Calculating the time, the king of Beirong at the time was probably just one of his many sons. I heard he ascended the throne by murdering his father and brother. His cruel and ruthless methods terrified the people of Beirong. And now he's asking my father to marry me. The Zhou dynasty has been plagued by natural disasters in recent years, and the northern Rong have a strong military. That's why the court officials urged my father to approve this marriage, no matter what. Why did such a man appear in the Zhou dynasty? And why did he save me? I suppressed my doubts. When I looked at Lu Jinghong again, the affection I had felt for him in my youth gradually faded. He was intelligent and outstanding. The daughters of the Zhou dynasty all admired him. A man like him truly deserved to be my consort. But when I saw the subtitles saying that Lu Jinghong had never loved me but Zi Yan, I actually breathed a sigh of relief. It's not that I wasn't sad at all. It's just that the sadness was the sense of loss that comes from being rejected by others. But it was definitely not the heartbreak and despair of being betrayed by someone you love. After understanding this, I no longer hated Lu Jinghong. I was too paranoid, thinking that granting you the position of consort was a way of repaying a favor. Lu Jinghong looked at me with some surprise. I will tell my father that from today on, our marriage is annulled. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other's marriages. As soon as I finished speaking, Lu Jinghong was stunned. He asked in disbelief, "Are you willing to go as a foreign marriage?" I didn't respond. He grew anxious. That's not what I meant. I just think the substitutionary marriage isn't right, but we can think of other solutions. I looked at him sarcastically and said, "What solutions?" Lu Jinghong vowed, "As long as the princess can give up the idea of Zi Yan being a substitute bride, I can convince His Majesty to rescind your marriage." "How will you convince him?" "I am willing to personally lead the troops to fight the northern Rong." He said the same thing as my second brother. But this time, I didn't feel the slightest bit moved. For a military commander like Lu Jinghong, war is always the preferred option. I said, "The northern Rong are now strong, while the Zhou dynasty has suffered from severe drought in recent years. Where will you get enough food and fodder to fight?" Lu Jinghong replied matter-of-factly, "Rich families all have stored grain. If you don't have it, borrow from them, or increase taxes. With tens of millions of people in the Zhou dynasty, how can we worry about not being able to gather enough food and fodder?" He said it so easily. But I didn't realize how many more people would starve to death if taxes were increased. Now I'm actually somewhat thankful that I saw through his true colors. I used to think of him as my savior, a close relative. I unconsciously viewed him through a filter. Now I feel like a toad standing before me, making a lot of noise. As despicable as the northern Rong king, who murdered his father and brother, was, he was nowhere near as disgusting as Lu Jinghong, who treated the lives of ordinary people like worthless grass. I said coldly, "General, please don't worry about this. I am a princess, enjoying the people's wealth and the responsibility of the royal family. My father asked me to marry into a foreign alliance, and this is my responsibility as a princess." I used his words to retort. Lu Jinghong's face suddenly darkened. The situation became tense for a moment. Just then, a voice interrupted from the side, breaking the deadlock. "The princess is right. General Lu, please don't worry about this." 15. Chu Jingyue came over with a group of servants. He looked at me, pointed behind him, and said, "I was passing by the market and saw some new things. I thought you might like them, so I bought them for you." The servants spread the things all over the floor, filling it up. He looked at Lu Jinghong, his brows suddenly sharp. Zhao is my Zhou dynasty princess. It's not your place, a stranger, to decide her marriage, is it? I knew my second brother had returned because he was worried I'd be bullied by Lu Jinghong. He bought these things and said these things to support me. He wanted to tell Lu Jinghong. Although my father ordered me to marry, I'm still a princess as long as I'm in the Zhou dynasty. Behind me are the royal family members of the Chu clan. That's not something Lu Jinghong can interfere with. Lu Jinghong suddenly realized something. With a complicated expression, he said, I've overstepped my bounds. After my second brother drove the annoying person away for me, he turned to me and said, I heard everything you said. Just don't forget, you have us brothers behind you. My nose tightened. Second brother, can you do me another favor? Send me back to the palace. 16. After leaving the imperial study, I saw my second brother waiting at the door. He said, have you really thought it through? I nodded, yes. He suddenly handed me a book. What is this? I've gathered information about the king of Beirong. I wanted to give it to you when I came to the palace today. I took it and was about to flip through it when my second brother said, the king of Beirong may not be as bad as you think. Marrying him might be better than marrying Lu Jinghong. He then pulled out another book. I asked, puzzled, what is this again? The information I've gathered about Lu Jinghong. Seeing this, I couldn't help but laugh. The heavy heart I had felt since leaving my father's study suddenly brightened. Chu Jingyue was stunned. What are you laughing at? I joked, second brother, are you some kind of intelligence chief? Chu Jingyue burst into laughter. Back at the princess's mansion, I opened the booklet and read on. In mid-June of the 12th year of Tianli, the military camp's rations were stolen. Lu Jinghong sought out the maid Zi Yan and seduced her with his male sexuality. He persuaded her to transfer the princess's mansion's rations to the general's mansion, thus resolving the food crisis. The more I read, the more horrified I became. I then remembered how 2 years ago, a large number of disaster victims had flooded into the capital. The governor of Jingji Prefecture had driven the victims to the suburbs. When I learned of this, I immediately asked Zi Yan to accompany me to provide porridge to the people outside the city. No wonder I had purchased a large amount of rice at a high price to provide relief to the people. But it didn't last more than 7 days, and I watched helplessly as hundreds of victims perished. All this was due to a traitor. After that, the two of them became acquainted. Every time I wrote to Lu Jinghong, Zi Yan was the first to offer to deliver it for me. But as the letter was being delivered, it ended up in Lu Jinghong's bed. Many people in the general's mansion had witnessed the lewd noises coming from Lu Jinghong's room. But they kept it a secret from me. I slammed the book shut in anger. My eyes flicked to the other one. But just as my hand touched it, I flinched back as if it were burned. Forget it. A tyrant who murdered his father and brother is nothing to behold. It would save me from further anger. 17. Upon learning that I had personally spoken to my father and agreed to the marriage, the queen mother fell ill. The crown prince jumped in and said, didn't the queen mother say that Zi Yan would marry in her place? What are you doing? You've made the queen mother sick. Ever since I learned the truth, I've always felt awkward when I saw the crown prince. These feelings of over a decade weren't fake. But they were wrong from the beginning. I couldn't immediately adjust my attitude to face him like I did with Lu Jinghong. Your Highness, I'll beg you to take good care of mother after I'm gone. The prince frowned. A frown rose. An inexplicable emotion flickered in his eyes. How could the crown prince truly love his biological mother, knowing that the empress had ordered her death? Once the emperor dies, the Zhou dynasty will belong to the crown prince, allowing him to avenge his mother without further ado. According to the original plot, after the northern Rome defeated the Zhou dynasty, the crown prince personally handed the princess over to the enemy, leaving her to be raped and killed by a dozen enemy soldiers at the border. But the plot seems to be going off the track. If the princess hadn't found a replacement, would the king of Northern Rome still have sent troops to attack the Zhou dynasty? I was holding the medicine bowl when I saw these subtitles, and my hand gave way. The bowl fell to the ground, shattering. I quickly put my burned hand behind my back. But my eyes were fixed on my third brother. 18. After leaving Jingren Palace, I went to find my second brother. I gave him the handkerchief stained with the Empress Dowager's medicine. Ask him to check the specific ingredients of the prescription. I wouldn't bet on it. If the crown prince truly views mother as an enemy, then she's ill now. Would he have tampered with the medicine? My second brother said nothing, as if he supported me no matter what I did. 2 days later, my second brother found me and returned the handkerchief. The ingredients on the handkerchief are safe. I breathed a sigh of relief. It seems I was overthinking it. But my second brother didn't seem to relax. The prescription prescribed by the imperial physician is fine, but I noticed Jingren Palace recently purchased a large amount of lilac. If you smell too much of this lilac, it will interact with the ingredients in the medicine, turning it into a chronic poison, leaving you bedridden and unconscious. My hands were shaking with anger. No wonder when I went to pay my respects to mother these past few days, she was so dazed she couldn't even speak clearly. I immediately ran to Jingren Palace to ask the servants. As expected, these lilacs were purchased by Chu Qingyu's order. 19. My father bestowed upon me the title of Princess Huaiyang, and bestowed upon me a magnificent dowry. However, he originally intended for Lualua and Xian to be my maids in the dowry. I refused. They already had loved ones. If I were forced to follow them to the north, they would eventually harbor resentment and not treat me sincerely. Before my departure, my mother was bedridden and unable to see me off in person. My father postponed the morning court session and allowed me to ride in his imperial sedan chair. He followed me step by step, escorting me to the palace gate. He carried me down from the sedan chair. I vaguely remember that as a child, I always insisted on riding in the same carriage with my father. He couldn't persuade me, so he carried me in his arms. But I was already grown up. My father couldn't lift me anymore. He could only support me, letting me use his strength to descend. After I regained my composure, my father said, "Zhao Ning, remember, you will always be the most honored eldest princess of the Zhou dynasty. Father, I will always be your support." My eyes welled with warmth. That day, when I visited my father in the imperial study, I saw him arguing with the ministers about my marriage. His hair had turned gray with worry. It turned out that, like my mother, he was reluctant to send me on this marriage. But he was the father of everyone in the world, he couldn't be Zhao Ning's father alone. I understood him, and my respect for him grew even stronger. Now, looking at my father from such a close distance, I could see more wrinkles around his eyes. Unknowingly, my father had aged. He deserved a crown prince who was open-minded, intelligent, and kind. "Father, do you remember asking me who wrote the best of those essays on saving the people?" That time, Zhao Ning lied. 20. The marriage convoy reached the city gate. Lu Jinghong, leading the horses, stopped my carriage, saying he had something to tell me. The wind lifted the curtain, and I saw Lu Jinghong's face, lost in thought. He had lost his former spirit. But the wind vanished in an instant, and the curtain fell with it. Just like the ripples stirred in my heart in my youth, time has calmed them. I didn't stop for him. I followed the marriage convoy all the way to Beirong. On the way, the scenery changed. The once lush plains gave way to rolling mountains. The weather grew colder and drier. The curtains on the carriage were made of fine silk, unable to withstand the wind and sand. I could only add a few more layers of curtains to block out some of the dust. The carriage journeyed like this for over a month. Finally, we arrived at the border between the Zhou dynasty and the northern Rhone. These past few days, I'd finished reading all the notebooks I'd brought with me. My eyes fell on the booklet my second brother had given me. For some reason, I placed the booklet on my lap and opened it. My eyes widened slightly unconsciously. I saw the general in the painting, clad in cold iron armor, clutching a blood-stained silver spear, pointing it obliquely to the heavens. The setting sun lengthened his figure, his battle robe rustling in the wind behind him. Clearly, Lu Jinghong was also a famous general of our Zhou dynasty. But compared to this man before me, I finally understood what a god of war truly was. I suddenly came to my senses. This is the king of the northern Rome. 21. I actually had a stereotype about the king of the northern Rome. I remember that year, Lu Jinghong returned to the court with the Lu family army. I heard that the Zhou dynasty suffered a defeat, General Lu defeated by a young man's spear. That young man was the current king of Beirong. At the time, I curiously asked Lu Jinghong what he looked like. But Lu Jinghong angrily replied, green face, fangs, tiger back, bare girth unsightly. From then on, the image of the king of Beirong in my mind was like that of Zhong Kuei in the underworld. I once dreamed of him, and would wake up in terror, convincing myself I wouldn't meet him. Who knew? Not only would I soon meet him, but I would marry him. I turned back. I looked at the booklet my second brother had given me. It contained only portraits of this man. Some of him leading troops in battle. Some of him herding sheep with herdsmen. Some of him applying medicine to wounded soldiers. If he was the king of Beirong, then why was he so different from the legend? I had a vague, inexplicable feeling in my heart. This feeling was finally confirmed when I met the king of Beirong. 22. As soon as I entered Beirong territory, I felt the caravan suddenly become much quieter. I just lifted the curtain to get some fresh air. Suddenly, I caught sight of a profile that looked both familiar and unfamiliar. Frightened, I immediately lowered the curtain. I slapped my face. Could it be that I was still asleep, and the person in the painting had escaped? When I lifted the curtain, I was met with a pair of deep eyes. Huaiyang, do you have any instructions? Huaiyang is my title. This was the first time someone had called me that. My heart skipped a beat and I stuttered, no, nothing. And so, this man, on horseback, escorted my caravan all the way to the Beirong capital. He had no airs of a king. I was in the carriage. Occasionally, I'd secretly lift the curtain to peek at him. He'd always catch me dead in the act. Until, as we neared the capital, a torrential downpour descended. A drenched man climbed into my carriage. We stared at each other. We were both a little nervous. He asked if I'd eaten and slept well on the way. I nodded, not daring to say much. Well, it doesn't usually rain in northern Rome. I nodded. Then, sensing something was amiss, I looked up at him. So? He scratched his head. So it must be the rain god welcoming you to northern Rome, sending this rain. He grinned like a fool. He looked nothing like the wielding, commanding figure in the painting, capable of taking lives in the blink of an eye. 23. The further we got from the capital, the more uncertain I felt. This was my first time traveling far away. The man opposite me seemed to notice I was feeling down, and he didn't dare speak or interrupt me. Before I knew it, I'd fallen asleep. Suddenly, the carriage shook violently. I was startled awake. When I awoke, the person opposite me was gone. Curious, I lifted the curtain. I saw the figure of the king of Beirong heading for the rear of the carriage. Fearing something had happened, I asked a maid for an umbrella and got out. The king of Beirong grabbed the wheel stuck in the mud with both hands. 8 men couldn't lift the carriage, so how could he lift it by himself? I was a little skeptical. The king of Beirong saw me getting out. For some reason, he suddenly took off his shirt, revealing his muscular body. I covered my eyes with my hands in fear, but I couldn't help but peek through my fingers. Just then, the subtitles, which had disappeared since I left the Zhou dynasty, started rolling again. What did I miss? How did the plot get so distorted? You read that correctly above. The rumored cruel and bloodthirsty king of Beirong, Hulianfeng, has now been seduced into a black carp by the princess. However, the supporting actress has chosen a good path. It's said that in the original novel, the king of Beirong is said to be able to seduce 9 women at night. I couldn't help but gasp. I don't know if it was because of the subtitles, or because I saw Hulianfeng actually lift the carriage with one hand. He even spun it in front of me with a show of skill. He raised his eyebrows proudly. Seeing that I was finally willing to smile, he put the carriage down safely on the ground. 24. My days in Beirong. Hulianfeng treated me very well. Worried that I wouldn't adapt, he built a mansion identical to the princess's for me to live in. He hired a chef from the Zhou dynasty at a high price. Whenever he had time, he would cook for me, tailoring my preferences perfectly. It was as if he had known me for a long time. I appreciated all his kindness. Finally, one day, as he pitifully prepared to sleep on the floor with his blankets, I patted my side. The floor's cold. Let's sleep here tonight. Oh, that wolf cub, the Northern Rhone king, has been acting pitiful for days, only to find himself waiting for this very day. Princess, don't regret it. It's easier said than done. Next, will we still be able to watch for free? My eyes widened. Just as I was about to regret it, Hulianfeng suddenly took advantage of the situation and gagged me. The next day, I woke up with a sore back. I saw him standing energetically by my bed, waiting for me to wake up with soy milk. I glared at him angrily. He blinked. You smell so good, I couldn't resist. I threw a pillow at him. He dodged it with a deft move, not spilling a drop of the soy milk in his hand. He said aggrievedly, it's not like we haven't kissed before. I grabbed another pillow. I didn't throw it after all. Looking at his shameless look, I suddenly laughed. Luckily, it was him who saved me back then. 25. After the Zhou dynasty and the Northern Rhone formed a marriage alliance. With this alliance, the other small border states dared not invade. And the Northern Rhone were not the barren land with no grass, as the Zhou people had believed. On the contrary, they had cattle, sheep, and grasslands. The mountains and forests also held countless rare herbs and exotic animals. I adapted Zhou dynasty farming methods to the local conditions of the north, greatly alleviating the suffering of the nomadic people. Everything was moving in a positive direction. 3 years later, I was diagnosed as 2 months pregnant. Hulianfeng was so happy that he ate 3 extra bowls of rice that night and gave everyone in the palace a day off. But then I saw the subtitles again. The Northern Rhone didn't attack the Zhou dynasty, but unexpectedly, the Zhou dynasty was about to change. The emperor is seriously ill, and if the female supporting character doesn't return, she won't be able to see the old emperor for the last time. This book is unbearable. The crown prince was supposed to ascend the throne, but unexpectedly, the old emperor deposed him and demoted him to a commoner. Who told him to embezzle public funds and plot to poison the empress? It's a good thing the emperor didn't kill him. The male protagonist, Lu Jinghong, is also useless. Ever since the princess left, he has lost his ambition and spent his days in taverns and brothels. Is he still our male protagonist? It's useless. In this story, only the second brother is left to pursue his career. Hulianfeng, the love-brained man, can't be relied upon. 26. Hulianfeng insisted on personally accompanying me back to the Zhou dynasty to visit my relatives. When my father heard that I was returning to the capital, he was so happy that he said he would take his medicine seriously and wait for my return. My second brother said he had gathered a lot of new things to bring to me to the Northern Rhone. My mother also sent a letter informing me of my pregnancy and urging me to be careful on the road. The journey was exhausting. After much haste, we finally arrived in the capital. The streets of the capital were lined with people welcoming us. I then learned that my second brother had spread the word among the people about my decision to marry into the northern Rhone. It was a life or death struggle. In recent years, the Zhou dynasty has been spared from war and natural disasters, allowing it to recuperate. Trade with the northern Rhone has continued regularly. The people are prosperous and well off. They all attribute this to me, Princess Huaiyang, who married into the northern Rhone. On learning that I was returning to visit my parents, they rose before dawn, sweeping the streets, hanging lanterns, and placing flowers. They simply wanted to leave a favorable impression on the king of northern Rhone, the princess's family. I sat in the carriage, meeting the people of the old capital. Tears welled in my eyes. Hulianfeng held my hand and proudly said, "In the hearts of you Zhou people, you are the bravest and most intelligent princess." I smiled, remaining silent. Only I knew that wasn't true. I wasn't brave, nor was I intelligent. When I learned of the marriage, I considered running away. My third brother scolded me for being foolish and spoiled. Lu Jinghong called me selfish. But in the face of major issues, I held my ground. I am the eldest princess of the Zhou dynasty. I shoulder the honor and disgrace of the Zhou dynasty, and I must bear the corresponding responsibilities. At this moment, I truly felt the weight of the title of eldest princess bestowed upon me by my father. 27. I went to see my father and mother. My father looked a little better, but he remained bedridden. I spoke with my second brother. That year, as I was preparing to leave the Zhou dynasty, I told him my suspicions that my third brother was planning to poison my mother. I didn't have much time to investigate, so I could only pin all my hopes on my second brother. For a crown prince, poisoning the queen mother was no small matter. My second brother must have prepared for a long time before convicting Chu Qingyu. But since becoming regent, my second brother has been much busier than before. He couldn't talk to me for long before he went back to work. On the way back to the princess's mansion, I encountered a beggar. One of his legs had been broken by a beggar's blow, and he lay dying against the wall. But as my carriage passed, he burst into an astonishing burst of strength, clinging to the wheel with all his might. I ordered the carriage to stop. Hulianfeng wanted to get down to investigate, but I stopped him. Because I recognized him. The beggar before me was none other than my brother, the crown prince, who had been demoted to a commoner. He locked eyes with me. His eyes shone with an uncanny brilliance, just like when he first saw me, at age 6. Fourth sister, I'm the third brother. He clutched his hands tightly against the car window, begging me. Fourth sister, can you go and plead with our father, the emperor, and our mother, the empress, to take me back? He had lost a lot of weight, and looked much darker. My gaze fell on his hands, once precious and elegant, now rough, with dirt lurking between his nails. A familiar scene. For some reason, I handed him the bag of pastries I'd been using to satisfy my craving. Chu Qingyu took it, opened it, and saw not gold or silver but a few pastries. He flew into a rage. Chu Zhaoning, do you think I'm a beggar? You're sending me off with a bag of pastries. Don't forget, when you had smallpox, who was the one who stayed by your side, giving you water and coaxing you to sleep? 28. Hearing this, my face darkened. Hulianfeng winked at the guards, and Chu Qingyu was dragged away. Before lowering the curtain, I uttered, "Of course I remember, but that person wasn't you." Chu Qingyu's face froze. He wanted to say more, but his voice was drowned out by the crowd. My carriage was certainly not something a lame man like him could catch. Chu Qingyu was unwilling to give up. Finally, he went back and picked up the bag of cakes. But when he opened it, he smelled a familiar scent, and his mind wandered for a moment. When he was a child, tortured by the maids in the cold palace and starving, he saw a bag of osmanthus cakes in the corner. Back then, he had vowed that if he escaped the cold palace, he would find the kind-hearted person who had sent them the cakes and treat her well. Chu Qingyu, not caring about the dirt on his hands, stuffed a piece of osmanthus cake into his mouth. One piece after another. He choked from eating too quickly, and tears welled up in the corners of his eyes. The tears washed away the dirt on his face, leaving patches of white and black. He lowered his head. Tears soaked the pastry paper. The voice was filled with endless regret. Zhao, it was my brother's fault from the very beginning. The princess is a picky person. Her osmanthus cakes are specially made. You can't find them anywhere else. Luo lied to him that she was the one giving them, and the prince believed her, falling deeply in love with her. Who could have imagined that Luo would ultimately abandon the prince, taking all his money and running off with someone else? Isn't he just attracted to smart women? Husband and wife are birds of the same forest, but when disaster strikes, they each fly away. That's what a wise man does. Those who praised Luo before, stand up and see what has become of the prince. I saw these subtitles. My eyes drifted away indifferently. Chu Qingyu and I are no longer siblings. What happens in the future is none of my business. It's just that, on this return to the capital, I didn't expect to see this old friend again. And another. 29. My father hosted a family reunion banquet for me. Several ministers and their families were invited, giving me, the princess who was being married off, great honor. As soon as I took my seat, I could feel more than one burning gaze cast upon me. Especially after Lu Jinghong and her family entered the room. There was a lot of whispering at the banquet. The subtitles also began to play up the excitement. The princess is married, the hero is married, and now the former and current are all gathered together. What a scene! But what's with Lu Jinghong? He's the hero after all. Why has he looked so haggard lately? His face is pale, his eyes dark, as if he's been drained. On the other hand, the villain He Yanfeng looks energetic and heroic. If I were a princess, I would also choose the king of Beirong. Did you notice that the princess's complexion has become even more rosy since she became pregnant, her eyes charming, her gaze graceful, and she completely outshines Lu Jinghong's wife and concubine. I knew Lu Jinghong was looking at me. That clingy look hadn't left me since I sat down. When we locked eyes, his eyes lit up, and he stood up, glass raised, and walked over to me. Zhao, long time no see. After picking up a piece of food for He Yanfeng with my chopsticks, I lazily replied, General Lu, you are the minister, and I am the master. You should respect me as the eldest princess. Lu Jinghong was stunned. He seemed surprised that we had become so distant. But he still held his glass, as if he wouldn't leave until I drank. I was annoyed and was about to dismiss him. But He Yanfeng suddenly snatched the glass from Lu Jinghong's hand. He replaced it with a large bowl. And filled it up again. A martial artist, Lu Jinghong hadn't expected to have his possessions taken away so easily. He looked at He Yanfeng with a hint of irritation. 30. I had no idea what He Yanfeng was up to. But I saw him clink his wine bowl with Lu Jinghong's. A true man drinks from a large bowl. This cup is too small, and it makes a womanly noise. Are you afraid to drink, General? The two began a drinking contest. I looked at my second brother for help. My father had asked my second brother to host the welcoming banquet, but he ignored it and even joined the fray. The other nobles joined in the fun. They were betting on who could win the drinking contest. In northern Rome, I had never seen He Yanfeng drink in front of me. I hadn't expected him to be so hearty. No one had ever drunk more than him. The banquet ended. My second brother dragged He Yanfeng along for another round of drinking. It was rare to see him so happy, so I didn't stop him. My second sister-in-law also talked to me. Later, when my nephew woke up, she went to comfort him, and I sat alone by the lake with my maid, enjoying the cool breeze. From afar, I saw Lu Jinghong returning. I had a bad feeling and quickly stood up, heading in the opposite direction. Unexpectedly, Lu Jinghong used his qinggong to leap across the lake and block my path. His cheeks were flushed from drinking. Zhao, I've missed you so much these past 2 years. He reached out to hug me, but I dodged him. He turned to look at me, a little lost. You know, ever since you left Beijing, I've been depressed all day. Only then did I finally understand my feelings. Zhaoning, will you come back to me? Let's be like we were before. I retreated to the rockery and asked the maid to fetch someone. Lu Jinghong, you're married and I'm married. How can we go back to the way we were? Don't get drunk. Lu Jinghong waved his hand, his body a little shaky but his eyes clear. No, I'm not drunk, Zhaoning. If you're willing, I have a solution. You don't like that He Feng, do you? Your marriage to him is a political one. You like me. I don't like you. No, you do. Otherwise, why did you choose me when the emperor asked you to choose a consort? I sneered. I chose you because I thought you saved me from the drowning. But Lu Jinghong, are you still trying to lie to me? It wasn't you who saved me back then. 31. Before leaving Beijing, I specifically asked my second brother to help me investigate. That year, the Lu family neglected their duties and let the assassin in. When I was captured by the assassin and fell into the lake, Lu Jinghong wasn't there. He's not a good swimmer, and there's no way he could have jumped in to save me. But for some reason, he was right beside me when I woke up. When I asked him about it, his words were vague. Afraid that my father would blame the Lu family for poor protection, he claimed the favor of saving me as a favor. Lu Jinghong argued, I wanted to save you too, but the assassin had already left by the time I got there. Could that be why you've fallen for someone else? When I first learned the truth, I struggled with it. But I quickly came to terms with my feelings. Lu Jinghong, youthful affection is too shallow, it can't withstand any setbacks or trials. Now you have a wife and concubines, and Ziyan is married to you. Why don't you cherish the person in front of you, and instead pester me? I tried to calm Lu Jinghong down. But Lu Jinghong, unsure of what she was thinking, said, I see. You're jealous, aren't you? It was Ziyan who seduced me back then. I don't like her at all now. If you mind, she's just a concubine. I can divorce her immediately. Ziyan was just a concubine. I looked at the edge of the rockery, where a glimpse of purple clothing peeked out. You fell out with me over her back then, so why did you only take her as a concubine? Lu Jinghong scoffed. How could a servant like her be the general's wife? She's still dreaming of sleeping with a man before she even got married. She's nothing but a whore. The empress did offer her to me back then, but I refused. Only you, princess, are worthy of being my wife. I sighed, carefully holding my belly. But as far as I know, you married a new wife last year. Lu Jinghong said anxiously, her father died on the battlefield. My grandfather took pity on her, so I had no choice but to marry her. A woman like that would bring misfortune upon her father and perhaps even her husband. I've long intended to divorce her. 3 years since I last saw her. Lu Jinghong's personality has changed considerably. He used to be quite calm and reserved, but after a few drinks, his true nature reveals itself, his words becoming rude. It was only today that I finally saw his full, disgusting face. I looked at the two men approaching from behind him. I didn't intend to remind him. Seeing my softening attitude, Lu Jinghong thought he had his chance. He said he would write a divorce letter as soon as I agreed. But he didn't wait until he left the palace. He was struck on the head by his wife and concubine right in front of me. At the moment of the blow, someone covered my eyes from behind. A familiar aura enveloped me. Don't look, it's dirty. 32. Lu Jinghong was bludgeoned into a lunatic. The general's wife and Ziyan were imprisoned for assaulting their husband. I pleaded for them and their death sentences were spared. After this incident, the general's mansion collapsed completely. General Lu, heartbroken, began to neglect his household affairs. With no one to tend to Lu Jinghong, he urinated and defecated on the bed. The room was stinking, and the servants were unwilling to clean up. I saw Lu Jinghong's fate through the subtitles. This is so tragic. This is the worst male protagonist I've ever seen. Who forced Ziyan to be his concubine? He beat and scolded her every day, driving the heroine crazy. It's a blessing she's endured this long. The princess has become the most successful. Who remembers what her original fate was? 33. The day I left the capital. Chu Qingyu ran after my carriage, limping and offering me a treasure. Fourth sister, third brother made you a kite. This time, third brother made it himself. Didn't we agree to go fly a kite together? His hands were bloody and scratched. I lowered the curtain. Hulian Feng asked me, "Do you like flying kites?" I thought for a moment. I shook my head. Back then, it was Lulua who suggested it, and I told Chu Qingyu I wanted to go on a spring outing and fly kites. 34. Since my daughter was born. Those strange subtitles never appeared again. Only in my dreams at midnight. I once saw a woman, dressed in gorgeous clothes, being pushed out of the country. A dozen foreign soldiers surrounded her. They tore her clothes, ripped off her hairband, and spread her legs apart. She wailed and cried, turning away in despair. When I saw her face, I was startled awake. Until a large palm covered my sweaty hand. Hulian Feng helped me sit up and patted my back. Another nightmare? I nodded, resting my chin on his shoulder. He panted, his voice a little hoarse. Hulian Feng, will you send troops to attack the Zhou dynasty again? You've asked me many times. I don't care, swear. Okay, I swear as long as I'm in Beirong, I will never attack the Zhou dynasty. Did you really kill your father and brother? I asked weakly. He paused. Yes. I didn't press further. Even though history books might record his patricide and fratricide. In the hearts of the northern Rong people and me, he was definitely not a tyrant. Hulian Feng, unsure of what was going on, tightened his embrace around me. Huaiyang, actually. I had a dream, too. I nodded. He spoke with a limp voice. In my dream, I marched to the Zhou dynasty and found you, but you. I kissed him, stopping him from continuing. Now this nightmare is over.